What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch and review for you. So today we are talking about a new collection from Ice Cream Nails, their Glazed Jelly collection. And just based on the name alone, I knew I was going to enjoy these, but let's see if they actually performed up to my standards. But before we get into that, if you haven't heard of Ice Cream Nails before, they are an Australian-based independent nail polish brand, but they are available internationally and all of their polishes are 10 free, meaning they are free of 10 of the potentially harmful ingredients that can be found in nail polish. They are vegan, meaning they do not use any animal-derived ingredients. They're cruelty-free, meaning they do not test their products on animals. And they're also plant-based, breathable, and halal suitable. So yeah, the Glazed Jelly collection comes with 8 new polishes, and they're all jelly bases that have a flaky shimmer running throughout, which is a formula that I feel like I've been struggling with a lot recently. But I was excited to see an indie take on these because I feel like mostly it's mainstream brands that kind of struggle with the opacity to shimmer ratio. So I was excited to try these out. We have a really nice range of color. We've got some deeper, almost cosmic sort of colors, and then we've got brighter colors ranging into neon territory. So yeah, let me just dive into the swatches, then we can talk a little bit more about pricing, my thoughts, all that good stuff. So roll the swatch footage. So as with all of my swatch and review videos, I am using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent any stains. Today, I think it's the ILNP base coat. So we'll start off with the shade Candycore. We've got this really vibrant, almost neon pink jelly base, and then within it we've got a lot of this really beautiful, super fine flaky shimmer. And the shimmer is a little bit cooler toned, so it's a little bit more of like a fuchsia, kind of purpley, iridescent flaky. And the way that you can tell the difference between flakies and a pure shimmer is just the size of the particle and the way it hits the light. You can see, especially around my cuticle area, there are some pieces that kind of jump out a little bit more and look bigger. So that's usually how I identify that something is not quite as fine as a shimmer. But I loved the way that this one looked in 2 coats. You could still see the visible nail line, but it was very even and smooth across the nail. I ended up, just out of curiosity, applying a 3rd coat, which I'm going to be doing on all of these polishes just to show you what they look like in between coverage. And I think that this one gave it a lot more coverage. You could see it pretty much got rid of that visible nail line there. It made the color a little bit more vibrant, but it still ended up keeping that really beautiful consistency across the nail. So really nice, just depending on how you want to wear it. If you want to wear it as a 2-coater with a little bit less punch, or if you want to wear it as a 3-coater with a little bit more opacity, I think it works both ways. Next up, we have the shade Crystal Jelly, and this is going to be one of those jellies that definitely looks different based on your undertone. And I will say I am very warm undertone, so this immediately kind of shifted into a very warm purple jelly base for me. So within that jelly base, we also have a lot of this cool toned iridescent flaky shimmer in there. So we've got a lot of that blue color, little sparks of purple. And again, 2 coats I was really impressed by because even though it is sheer, like I said with the other one, it's very consistent across the nail. So there's no areas of patchiness, which is what I mainly look for in a jelly formula and something that I feel like I've been missing a lot of in recent collections. So again, just trying it out in 3 coats, I don't think it made a significant difference because, like I said, I think your undertone is going to play a big part in this polish. If you have cooler undertones, it's probably going to look a little bit less reddish on you and maybe a little bit more into that cooler toned purpley vibe. But I ended up really liking it both ways. So again, really up to you on how much coverage you want to wear here. And then we have the shade Atomic Grape, which I was really excited about because it's yet another purple. And again, we have this really intense purple jelly. This one is a little bit deeper and darker, and I would say slightly more cool toned. But again, you can see in the first coat, because I have that very yellowy undertone, it ended up looking a little bit reddish, but the more coats I applied onto my nail, the more cool toned the color got. And again, we have those blue to purple iridescent flaky shimmers running throughout. And again, I was really pleased with the opacity in 2 coats. I feel like on camera it looks slightly patchy, but that's just because it's very reflective, so you can kind of see my face and my skin tone around the edges. But when I move my nail around, you can see that it's actually really nicely opaque there. But again, just out of curiosity, applied a 3rd coat, and I think that's what really deepened the coverage the most and gave me the most cool toned color. So I think just depending on if I want to go with something a little bit warmer and lighter, or if I want something deeper, a little bit more of like that cosmic vibe, then I would choose between 2 and 3 coats for this one as well. So now onto the shade Sugar Haze. This one is a slightly dusty medium blue jelly base that has a lot of the iridescent blue silver kind of iridescent sparkle running throughout. And I have to say, this one was definitely on the more sheer side, and it wasn't quite as smooth on the opacity in terms of consistency across the nail. So here's what it looked like in 2 coats. And I will say I wasn't quite satisfied with this. I wouldn't really wear this one as a 2-coater. And I think that's something that I've been talking about a lot with lighter shades like this with this type of formula, but I was pleased once I applied a 3rd coat. I think it looked a lot prettier. It definitely gave me a little bit of like that Cinderella color vibe, but I do wish that I could get the consistency in 2 coats because that's something that I really like in a jelly. And now we have the shade Jellyverse, and this one is a super deep navy blue base that is totally packed with iridescent sparkle that shifts from blue into purple. And while this is a jelly base, I would say this hits full coverage, at least on my nail length, in 2 coats. So I wouldn't necessarily call this a jelly finish, but that being said, this color is absolutely stunning. I feel like this is such a good galaxy color, like a base for a cosmic sort of manicure. It's so pretty, it's so sparkly, it feels really great for winter time, which it's going to be in Australia, but I also just feel like this is an any time of year blue for me because I always love this type of color. Next up we have the shade Dazed and Glazed, and this one is a super deep green jelly base that is packed with the iridescent flakies, and they look mostly like a silvery blue kind of color, but I feel like the way that they blend in with this base makes them look a little bit greenish as well, and I absolutely love this color. I think it's stunning, but that being said, I didn't love the way that it looked in 2 coats because I did feel like it was a tiny bit patchy. I will say I ended up doing a fairly thin 2nd coat, so it might be a little bit of user error. I'm gonna try it again with a little bit more on the brush. I feel like that's kind of my struggle when it comes to these thinner brushes that don't have the rounded tip, because sometimes I don't put quite enough on the brush, and that definitely is on me, but I always like to show you what the swatches look like the first time I'm doing it so that I'm kind of experiencing it for the first time with you. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I ended up really enjoying this one in the 3rd coat. Again, really beautiful, deep color, feels perfect for winter, and you can see just all those blue little flakes coming through. Moving on, we have a couple more bright colors to round out the collection, and this one is Hyperglazed. So this one is a lime green jelly base that's super sheer, and then we have that cool toned iridescent flaky shimmer running throughout. And I know that this is a controversial type of color. I feel like people do not love the look of this sort of vibe, especially when it's on the sheer side, but I will say, first of all, I love it because I do love a polish that kind of verges into ugly territory. But as far as the quality of the polish itself, I would say objectively, this is very high quality. So you can see in 2 coats, it gave very consistent coverage across the nail. Even though it was sheer, it felt very intentional because there weren't areas of patchiness across the nail. So it's something that is meant to be used this way, and it's something that can be built up. So even in 1 coat, you could kind of see that it was just very consistent jelly coverage, and in 3 coats, it still has that jelly-like feel to it, but you can see that intense greenish color. You can see just how sparkly it is with those blue shimmers in there, kind of just cooling it down. So I think it's a really fun one. I personally love this type of color, especially for the summertime, but again, I get that it's kind of an ugly color for some people. And then the final color in the collection, I usually say last but not least, but I would say this is probably my least favorite of the collection. This is Neon Drip, and this one is a vibrant yellow jelly base that has a lot of that iridescent sparkle in there. Honestly, looking at the iridescent sparkle, it mostly looked like a bluish silvery kind of color, and I will say I was really excited about this one. First of all, in the bottle, it looks absolutely stunning, and when I started applying it, the 1st and 2nd coat were super opaque, so I was thinking that this was going to give me really nice coverage, but you can see in the 2nd coat, it did have a little bit of that patchiness, which I thought was going to be resolved in the 3rd, but I think that this formula is just not as consistent or smooth as the rest of the collection. So even once I applied that 3rd coat, I felt like it was just a little bit patchy in areas. You can see some lines near my cuticle area on the nail that just didn't give me a smooth look. And even though I think it's a gorgeous color, I just felt like the formula didn't work out for me. But I do think I could make this work as a topper over a yellow base, and that's something that you can really do with any of these. So nice to have that option, but I am a little bit disappointed disappointed in it on its own. So here are all the polishes together, and I think we need to take a quick moment to appreciate this color story because it is absolutely stunning. Looking at the bottles, I felt like I didn't really see as much of the vision as I see now, and one thing I will say I really appreciate about ice cream nails is their ability to do both northern hemisphere weather and southern hemisphere weather at the same time, usually in the same collections, and I think they really captured that with this because 4 of the polishes just feel very bright and spring summery, and then 4 of them feel a little bit more of that fall winter mood, so that works out really nicely. But the way that these colors flow into each other is just so impressive. I love all of these colors side by side, even though they do feel like different seasonal vibes. Like the top 4 colors together would make such a beautiful skittle, and especially including one of the deeper shades in the bottom row, or even the bottom row with like a little bit of the purple or the light blue in there would be so gorgeous. So I feel like even though they do feel like very different vibes, having these like vibrant, almost neon kind of colors paired with these sort of cosmic, deep, almost black shades works out so well. So really appreciate that. I think that's so cool that they managed to do that. And I also just love a jelly formula in general. I love to see an indie brand take it on. I know I've been complaining so much about this type of formula from other brands, but I just feel like it's those lighter colors that it doesn't work for when it's like a light milky shade, and especially when you use too big of a flaky. So I feel like Ice Cream Nails really captured what I like about that type of finish, where we get colors that are vibrant enough, they're saturated but they're not milky, and they also have a small enough flaky that it almost could be a shimmer, and I think that's what makes the formula work a lot better in my opinion. But yeah, let's get into a little bit more of my thoughts and then we can talk about pricing, discount, all that stuff. So yeah, those are the polishes, and I have to say most of these I really did enjoy, and obviously the color story really spoke to me because this is just kind of in the range of where all my favorite colors are, especially to wear on my nails, so I had a lot of fun with that as well. Now as far as pricing and availability, all these polishes are available on the Ice Cream Nails website. If you're in the US, they do have a US specific website. If you're not, they do have an international website. They all come in 10 milliliter bottles. They do have the ice cream cone shaped caps, but I always like to say I don't think they're difficult to work with. Sometimes it takes one nail just to get used to, but then once you've done that, it's really easy to apply with them. And they retail on the US website for $13.50 USD each, but I do have a discount code, so you can use the code KELLI20 to get 20% off your order there. I'm gonna link everything down in the description. You can check them out if you're interested, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What do you think of this collection? What do you think of the color selection here? And how do you think these compare to the other flaky crellies that I've been talking about recently? Let me know in the comments. We can chat about it. And if you enjoy my swatch and review videos, please hit that like button. It really helps me out. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate if you would subscribe. I love you all, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. I wrote down this would you rather question that I was going to use in a Valentine's Day video, but I ended up not getting a Valentine's video out in time. So I thought I should share it here, which is, would you rather be dumped or do the dumping? I feel like to me, that's a very obvious one. I don't want to be blindsided, so I would rather do the dumping. But I have to say in general, I feel like it seems like a lot of people prefer to be dumped. Like I feel like especially when you're younger, a lot of people for some reason want to do it this way, where when they've kind of checked out of the relationship, they try to get the other partner to break up with them so that they don't have the guilt of being the dumper, which I strongly disagree with. I would rather just get it over with, rip the band-aid off. So yeah, I mean, I would choose to be the dumper every single time. Do not want to be blindsided, especially if I don't know it's coming. I think that would be terrible. And if somebody wanted to break up with me, I feel like they should just have the maturity to be able to do that. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts, but I'm curious to hear what everybody else thinks. So let me know in the comments. We can chat about it, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.